right, guys. So we saw last night on Tuesday Night Football, the Tennessee Titans were able to pretty much defy all odds. I mean, I'm pretty sure aside from Titans fans, everyone was pretty much counting them out and saying that they had no chance, missing several key players on the COVID list. And honestly, it was questionable throughout the whole week if they would even play. And I don't even know if they actually had a real practice. I can't remember, but the majority of their practices were through Zoom. And yet still somehow they were able to come out and beat the Bills 42-16. And I'm actually hearing right now out of Buffalo that Josh Norman has just now officially landed from that Derrick Henry stiff arm.
Yeah, we got to jump into that stiff arm, right now. We can't pass up that opportunity. I have never seen a grown man fly. Like, yeah, I mean, I was watching some other shows today, and I think it was actually Undisputed, and Skip Bayless was like, I still don't think that's the best one I've seen, and he went back to a Steelers tight end's stiff arm that he had. I'm like, okay, yeah, he pushed him down to the ground and kept running for a touchdown, but Henry made a guy fly. Like, you can't tell me that that's not one of the best, if not the best stiff arm of all time. It's like top two, in my opinion.
It almost makes you want to apologize to Earl Thomas for last year getting turned around into a lead blocker. That seems pretty minute at this point.
Derrick Henry must have something against the number 29, though, because both guys, that was their number, and he just pushed them around.
That just goes to show what you said about Skip Bayless, though, is that you really can't pay that much attention to the things that he has to say. And Tyler, we've already jumped into this video a little bit, but why don't you go ahead and introduce our special guest that we've got on the show with us?
Oh, yeah. With us today, we have Luke Jerkins, personal friend, and my wife actually is a nanny for him and his brother's family. So he loves talking about Titans football, volunteer football. So we decided to bring him on for this show. And
I hear he was a little bit of a stud football player.
No.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, rumors are my demise. Yeah, they've been greatly exaggerated. No, appreciate it, guys. I really love the show. I listen to it, I think, 2 times a week at this point, as much as I can. I'm an attorney on the side, and like you said, running around with the almost 2-year-old all day is kind of my biz. But love Titans football. Enjoy the show. Y'all know your stuff, and happy to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on, guys. I mean, let's hop on into this game. Like you mentioned, Tanner, 42-16. I think the Titans had maybe 2 practices. They had a walkthrough or 2, and then, of course, opposing fan bases want to talk about the unknown practices that they have and how, the Titans should have had to forfeit this game, forfeit the Steelers game. I think they're just scared to play the Titans. And after last night, I mean, I would be too if I was opposing teams, because, I mean, they didn't practice for 13 days, really. Like at, an official practice. Like you mentioned, they done Zoom practices, just got together for meetings. Everyone had to be accountable for themselves and stay in good shape, the best shape that they could.
I mean, after this performance, is Zoom practices, are those going to be like the new normal?
I mean, if they can stay this focused and come in with this much fire, I'd be for it. I mean, it eliminates people possibly getting hurt at official practices, right? So,
Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I think hats off to Mike Vrabel. The one thing that you can say is that when it comes down to a head coach keeping everybody's head straight, like you mentioned, they were down some players, some really important players too. Didn't have Humphreys in there yesterday. Obviously, didn't have Corey Davis, Jeffrey Simmons. You're talking about some big pieces to the puzzle. And the Titans were giving up 5.5 yards per carry going into that game. And you thought that there was just going to be more of the same. Big day for Devin Singletary coming, and man, they put the reserves in. They bowed their bowed their necks. We're going to get into third downs. That's probably the only thing that we can really be disappointed about in the defensive effort yesterday. But I like most was shocked in how they did it. Interesting stat. I'm a big numbers guy. Came out of the game. They were one of only 2 teams ever to have scored touchdowns on their 6 red zone trips, not turned over the football back in the same game. The other team was the 2017 New England Patriots that went undefeated when they beat actually the Buffalo Bills that same year. I believe they beat them 56-10. So, the Titans, again, not only playing the third game in NFL history on a Tuesday night, also are in good company because they scored in all 6 of their red zone trips, 100%. They scored touchdowns, that is, and did not give up a sack despite having, Lawan somewhat limited in the game and, not turning the ball over, which now they're number 1 in the NFL in turnover differential.
Yeah, those turnovers were huge for them. I mean,
tough going for the Bills, though, right?
It was.
They're the only team that has given that up. It's only happened twice. And as far as Luke's stats, Tyler, is there any way like we can bring him on full time or?
Hey, I've told him, because we didn't know if you were going to be able to make this recording or not, and I talked to Luke. He was excited to come on, and then whenever you said you could make this one, I told him, I said, now, Tanner may not be able to make some of them in the future, and if not, you're going to have to hop on here and be, my co-host. And
right, and anytime you want to hop on that I'm on here. I mean,
yeah, and that's what I was going to say. We can have him on anytime. So, but
well, hey, I appreciate that too. I'll just if I can't make it, throw some stats at you, and you guys can read them off, and
yeah.
I'll cite my references like all good lawyers.
There you go.
And like you mentioned, Tyler, I might be on the COVID list here soon. So hence the Zoom meeting for the video.
Well, I mean, not just that, but, some people I've told this, my wife has it. So, she had it first, and that already kind of limited us getting together to do this. And then today you started feeling bad. So, but you're powering through it like the Titans.
To give the people a video.
Right. Like the Titans powered through the Bills last night.
There we go.
I mean,
all that matters is how you come out of it, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And this thing starts with the Titans, and now it's spreading to Titans podcasts. I blame the Titans.
Titans versus everybody.
Titans
versus everybody. And I mean, I've also been seeing all these Bills fans with the excuses of, well, we were having to prepare for 2 teams. We didn't know if we were going to be playing the Titans, if we were going to be playing the Chiefs. Like, you know what? That's part of being a professional athlete, I feel like, and knowing going into this season what could happen with COVID. Like, you have to be prepared for that. If this would have happened to their team, if they would have had all the COVID breakout, they would want to be in the same boat the Titans are in right now, where they're not wanting to be made.
Or would they have been scared to play the game?
They may have been scared to play the game, but
whereas we weren't scared, we wanted to just play.
Well, to me, it looks like I don't think they come in with the mindset of wanting to actually play that game. This Bills team has been on fire this year. They've been playing good football.
Yeah.
They were 4-0, and Allen was already in talks for the MVP. I mean, he's been playing lights out. Up until last night, he only had 1 interception. I mean, you got to give him his props. He's been slinging the ball around.
Right. He has been playing well. He has.
And
big comeback the last week too. I think they were down double digits, and they came back and won that game prior to playing the Titans.
Right.
But,
and it was the turnovers. The Titans defense, like you mentioned, Luke, we had problems on third down. Couldn't get off the field. I know at one point, I think they had converted 11 of 15 times on third down, and that may have been the final stat.
They finished 13 of 17, which is ridiculous. Also considering even on that first drive, they had 3rd and 1, which whatever. Then they had 3rd and 15, they had 3rd and 7, and then 3rd and 13. They converted all of them on their way to a touchdown, right to make that game 7-7. That's not going to sit well with Mike Vrabel today.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think that was their second drive, because that first drive they had a 3rd and long, and I mean they would have converted it, but their guy he let the ball go through his hands.
How about Malcolm Butler?
Malcolm Butler
How about Malcolm Butler? Lights out.
I just like how he kept trying to take it to the house. Like both interceptions.
Okay, did he earn his respect this season? I mean, he's been questionable so far, but did he earn his respect for this season just out of this game?
He is trending in the right direction now, and let's get Luke's thoughts on this.
It's tough to say, but I mean, he played well.
He did play very well. He's been coming off injuries, the past couple of seasons, just lingering stuff. He kind of had a little bit of a give me on the first interception. The second interception is just really good coverage and pressuring. Whoa, can't even think of his name now. It doesn't even matter. He's in the past now. But, when you're able to pressure the quarterback like that, like they were able to do, I think Clowney had a couple of knockdowns. I think Landry was the only person with a sack, I think. But Josh Allen moved very well, so that's not uncommon. But just kind of like the old Vrabel days, back when he was playing with Belichick, you would see a lot of that happen where they'd get teams down pretty early and they'd start trying to force some things, and you saw him force some balls that were behind receivers. Of course, the interceptions. I believe the one that was tipped into his hands was also behind his wide receiver. But we talk about inches in football, and you're an inch or a second behind, and that's what can happen. But props to Malcolm Butler for being in the right place, right time. He had made some great tackles on the game too, so he was all over the place.
And that just goes to show how a good pass rush can transform your secondary.
Which is what we'll get to Correa later.
Yeah. And, like you mentioned, Titans had one sack. They got after Allen quite a bit and made him move around.
Knock some passes down.
Yeah, he's got some good pocket presence, though. I mean, he was able – there were several times where I thought that the Titans had him and were going to get him down for a sack, and he was able to escape and extend the play. And more times than not, it was on those long third downs that they were letting them convert. And I mean, that's my only thing with the defense from the game was giving up the third downs and not getting off the field. But they done a very good job of not letting the Bills make that one big play. They kept everything in front of them, didn't let guys get behind them. And, obviously when your special teams step up like ours did last night, forcing the fumble on the kickoff.
Khalif Raymond with a 40-yard return on that punt.
Yes. I mean, our offense was set up really good from our defense, the turnovers they were able to force, and our special teams. I mean, that's what our offense dreams for right there, is the defense and special teams getting them on the opposing side of the field to where they only have to go 30, 40 yards to get a touchdown.
And a Tyler Staggs special, they kept feeding the beast. I think he touched the ball 20 times, but, I mean, they kept feeding him and they were staying ahead of the chain. So most of their third downs, with the exception of that Khalif Raymond 20-yard, that 3rd and 20 slant route, which is kind of out of nowhere. They stayed in front of the sticks. They were 3rd and medium, 3rd and short most of the game, which is exactly where you want to be at the Titans, because then Arthur Smith can go to work. And man, we'll get into Derrick Henry some more, but man, they stacked the line. They had a lot of that game. They were 7 in the box, even with a one back set and a tight end. They were stacking 7 in the box, and they got beat with it a little bit.
And now, what was the count on toss plays? Because that irritates Tyler absolutely to no end.
I think 3, and I think all 3 of them did nothing.
It was 2. There were 2 or 3 of them, and every time it happened, and Henry got hit in the backfield, I was screaming at my TV to stop with the toss plays. They are not working. I don't know why they keep putting them in the game plan. I mean, we're going to have to dive into that and really break it down by each game and see how many times they ran a toss or pitch play to him and how many yards they've actually gained off of it. Because
so Tyler, even though I wasn't able to physically be there with you for the game like last night, like we normally watch them together, I can imagine it, just because it's the same things. It's you complaining about toss plays, and then obviously probably getting really overexcited when Derrick Henry scores a touchdown.
Hey,
am I right?
Pretty much. And I mean, I was excited for any of the Titans that were scoring touchdowns last night. I mean, A.J. Brown, we haven't even talked about him yet, finally getting to come back from injury. And the first touchdown goes to him. I mean, perfect ball by Tannehill. And, A.J. Brown just kind of waiting till the last second to get his hands up, bring the ball in, make sure he had both feet down, and make sure the ball didn't move whenever he hit the ground. And, I mean, he was, like we mentioned, they were without Corey Davis, who's been huge for us this year, Adam Humphries, who's been, real big on third downs especially, and A.J. Brown come out and showed why he is our number one receiver. He had 7 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown. And whenever Josh Norman was lined up on him, it seemed like the Titans just kept going to him because kind of like Derrick Henry, he had Josh Norman's number last night.
I think the field has Josh Norman's number where he landed right there, 29 around the 40-yard line or whatever it was. But, yeah, I agree with you. If it wasn't for Tannehill's performance yesterday, I would say that A.J. Brown was the best player probably on the field on offense for the Titans. He was really uncoverable. I'm not going to be a Buffalo Bills apologist. I know they were missing a couple of guys in the secondary, but that, you got to do something to him. And a lot of that, if you go back and look at the stats, you got 19 carries for 57 yards on the ground for Derrick Henry. And, if you take away the long runs by Tannehill, he had 4 carries, I think 40 yards or something like that. If you take away those long runs that he had, the offense only averaged 3 yards a carry. But that tells a story right there. The Bills were willing to stack it up to stop Henry. And we're going to talk about him in a minute. Ryan Tannehill, for all those people like Buffalo fans saying this guy wasn't worth $118 million over the next 4 years, that this guy is, or I guess it was the Sporting News ranked him the 15th best NFL quarterback coming into the league.
That's a joke.
His numbers are defying all of that. And, I think a lot of people looked at those playoff games last year and they said, well, he didn't throw for even 100 yards. Well, this team has a great mix. If you're not able to stop Derrick Henry for 6 yards in a cloud of dust, by God, they're going to keep running the ball. They're not going to stop. But if you want to stack and play this game where you want to stack the line, you see what happened yesterday, where you have a quarterback who goes 21 for 28, 3 total touchdowns, almost 200 yards, and just methodically controlled the ball down the field. When he was in play action, I mean, he could run or throw whatever he wanted. I mean, he had all the time in the world. And I can't believe that people continue to think that Tannehill is, not. I don't know if I want to call him elite yet, but his numbers right now through 4 games are very similar to Aaron Rodgers. His numbers over the last 14 games, according to CBS Sportsline, are better than Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. And they have the same record, 11-3. So it's going to be difficult for people after what he did on prime time on Tuesday night when everyone's watching to really doubt him at this point.
Yeah, they just kept on, which every team's done this, like you mentioned. They are stacking the box. They do not want Derrick Henry to beat them. They're pretty much telling the Titans, you're going to have to beat us behind Ryan Tannehill. And so far, every game, they've been able to do that. And at some point, teams have to learn, okay, we're going to have to respect what Tannehill can do because he is torching everyone. He may not put up 300-400 pass yards every game, but he's making the throws that he needs to make. He's finding open guys. A lot of people talk about, oh, well, the Titans, are just running play action. Okay, quit falling for the play action. Like, just back everyone up. Don't fall for the play action, and then Derrick Henry is just going to run all over your team. I mean,
Tannehill has 300-yard games. He has passed for 300-yard games. Last year he's been close a couple of times this year.
Yeah, and at this point they have to pick their poison. Like either Ryan Tannehill's going to beat you or Derrick Henry's going to beat you. I mean,
it's going to be a common theme until teams start to respect Ryan Tannehill. That he's just going to have these monster games, and they're going to have to choose: am I going to let Derrick Henry beat me? Am I going to let Ryan Tannehill beat me? And we've got them both locked down long term, so it's not going to end quickly.
Yeah, you got to have the horses that can line up against A.J. Brown and hopefully Corey Davis here, and can contain Jonnu Smith. And that's what it's going to have to be a lot of in order to get something out of a defense against these guys if they're clicking on all cylinders. And I think we can all agree they were clicking on all cylinders last night.
Oh, for sure.
It's going to take a very strong front seven and very, very elite man corners, I think, to be able to beat this team, to be able to contain their offense.
I agree with you. I was actually sitting here thinking that, in order for a team to beat us, really their front four are going to have to be able to contain Derrick Henry. That way everyone else can drop back into coverage. Because, if you start bringing 7 guys to stop Henry, I just don't know that teams have enough elite players in their secondary to stop the weapons that we have. And especially when we hit them with that play action. And if Khalif Raymond's in and we hit him with that play action and he can get over the top, they're done for. Because not many people are going to be keeping up with him on whenever he's sprinting down the field.
The Ravens game is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it really comes back to a lot of the defense as well, because there's been a couple of games that have been shootouts this year already. It seems like they were forever ago because of COVID, but you have 2 games there where you were in the 30s. But if the defense plays like that and you're having to, like Tyler said, pick your poison on offense or stopping this offense, they moved the ball really well against Denver too. They just couldn't kick a field goal. Gostkowski, I guess, his leg had COVID or something. But he's looked great. It's hard to be upset about anything after that game. I'm sure Vrabel will find something to be mad about, which is great. Love coaches.
Third downs.
Third downs. Yeah. Third downs. They didn't have too many penalties. I think 4 for 46, which whatever. They're still top 5 and.
That's not bad at all. I don't
bottom 5 in the league in penalties allowed. So top in the league in turnovers, and they're bottom 5 in penalties and penalty yards. So.
And they didn't allow a sack last night. And there were a couple times the Bills were close, but Tannehill was able to get the ball out of his hands.
All 3 of those things are things that can often go overlooked, but that's just what makes up a fundamentally sound football team, and probably says a lot about why the Titans are 4-0 right now.
You're absolutely right. That's exactly what I was going to say to that point is, you do those little things right, and it goes back to Vrabel being a Belichick disciple. He preaches those things. Win the turnover battle. Don't hurt yourself, and again, just you stay ahead of the change. Things like that. That you don't really, they're not really great numbers. If you say that to Patrick Mahomes, he's going to look at you kind of funny. I'm sure he agrees with all that, but he's going to put up big numbers in the passing game. The teams are going to be in high scoring, high flying games. But when it all comes down to it, if you're clicking on those, like you just said, Tanner, on those 3 stats, you're a threat to win in every single night you play.
And not to, toot my own horn or anything, but it was during the off season that, I wrote an article, and it was along the lines of, can the Tennessee Titans be the next Patriot-like dynasty with Mike Vrabel? So kind of called it there that, they were going to be doing well on the little things.
Yeah. You might be having. You said you might have COVID, so don't pat yourself too hard on the back. You're going to get sore.
And since you want to mention stuff from that we talked about in the off season, Tanner, I said that
I knew this was coming.
I thought Jonnu Smith. I thought Jonnu Smith was going to have a big year this year as our tight end one, and so far, I think he's proven that. I know last night he added 2 more touchdowns. Do we know how many he has on the year now?
I can look at that real quick.
No idea.
I'm about to say I can't remember for sure. I know Henry's up to 4 touchdowns on the year.
Right. And he's still top 3, even though he hasn't played one game. He's top 3 in the NFL in rush yards,
which is crazy considering he's not averaging the amount of yards that he was, end of last year and in the postseason, and he's just still, most of his runs now are looking like, or he hasn't had a run over 20 yards yet.
I think you're correct. I don't think he's had a run over 20 yards yet.
And that's what's insane is
it's coming.
No one, like, even with that, he's still top 3 in rushing.
And Jonnu Smith has 5 touchdowns through 4 games, so he's top 3 for tight ends in the NFL when it comes to touchdowns. Also getting targeted pretty good too. So
5 touchdowns for him on the year.
5 touchdowns for him on the year.
That's impressive.
That is, because I think whenever I was talking about my season prediction for him,
Here we go.
I may have had him like at 9 touchdowns on the year. So
he's ahead of schedule.
Yeah, he's way ahead of schedule on that.
Well, real quick,
I'm surprised you haven't. Go ahead.
I want to get your opinion on this. The one thing I was watching on this is Devin Singletary. He's a great running back. It kind of reminds you of that Chris Johnson type way in the way he runs, just trying to pick that little hole and then get 0 to 60 as fast as he can. And I was sitting there watching the game, and of course there was that breaking news towards the end that Le'Veon Bell is out of New York. Do you guys think Le'Veon Bell could end up – I mean, he would be a perfect fit in Buffalo, which you got that thunder and lightning kind of mentality now if you got Le'Veon Bell. You got to deal with the personality.
I've seen just today, so many potential places for him to land. I actually even saw I can't exactly remember who it was, but someone of – that they I don't know, of high profile, I guess I would say, actually put the Titans on their list of places for him to land. I don't know, maybe that's where the Correa money's going.
It seems like every time.
Personally, I wouldn't mess up what we have going on. Derrick Henry, when Darrington Evans gets healthy, I think it's going to be a great combination.
And you don't want to take carries away from Derrick Henry. I mean,
right.
He's a threat to bust one at any point or destroy a corner with a stiff arm. You don't want to take carries away from Derrick Henry.
No, and you have to wonder, Le'Veon Bell, he's been in past years, been one of the top running backs in the league. I don't believe he's going to be necessarily happy if he has to go somewhere and he's not the premier back. I could be wrong on that. He may be at a stage in his career now where he's like, dang, I messed up. I probably should have stayed in Pittsburgh. But, I don't know. I don't see him going to a team like the Titans who, he knows that they have Derrick Henry and he knows that his playing time is going to be very limited, especially when, like you mentioned, Darrington Evans gets back. We got to see him for a short time in the game last night, and it was really awesome seeing the change of pace that he brought to our run game. I mean, he was able to get to the edge. He only had 2 carries, but between those 2 carries, he was averaging 6 yards a carry. So, it's a nice –
well too. McNichols played really well also. I thought he looked good, except for going out of bounds there.
Big fan of McNichols.
And, I mean, so – I think I've been seeing the Bills as a possible landing spot for Bell. Been seeing like the Bears. Even heard something about maybe the Cardinals. But
to your point, Luke, I think it would be a great fit. One, just I think he would complement Devin Singletary very well, and two, him going to the Bears would absolutely destroy my fantasy team. So I'm going with the Bills, and I'm going to lock that in.
Well, real quick, Tyler gave us a pretty good segue too into Correa, and Tyler mentioned that he doesn't think Le'Veon Bell wants to go somewhere where he's going to be secondary, and I think we've seen a lot of that of Correa. And through 4 games, 39 snaps, he's not getting the playing time that I think he would expect, considering he's on a contract year. I think he's in Jacksonville is what I saw now, which I'll just say as a Titans fan, good for him. We hope the best for him. I think with number 99 on the edge now, it really took away a lot of snaps that he has. But what do y'all think about where they go from here? Do you think they add anybody to the roster or just keep it as it is?
I agree with what you said. Definitely, I hope he has a good year to finish out this season with Jacksonville. Obviously not in the games against the Titans.
Agreed.
I'm actually looking for the odds to come out on Bet Online or DraftKings or something for, what are the odds that Derrick Henry kind of gives him one of those stiff arms, makes a GIF out of him. But, I mean, maybe he's supposed to be their Ngakoue replacement or something. I don't know. But I'd like to see him, even though he is on the Jacksonville Jaguars now, would like to see him come out, get 4 or 5 sacks, finish the season strong. Jaguars still miss the playoffs, have a terrible record, and then maybe him get a good contract in free agency or something.
I mean, I think that, he messed up by doing that. You're on a team that's 4-0 and just won on Tuesday Night Football whenever they only had, 2 or 3 practices. And, still we're missing a lot of players due to COVID. So, and going to a Jacksonville team who over the past 3 weeks have become the only team in NFL history to allow teams with no wins to get their first win of the season. And I think that was a mistake by him, but I don't know that the Titans need to pursue anyone to replace him right now. We still have Roberson that has not come back yet. So, once he gets back, that's going to give us some depth back to our edge rush. And we still haven't seen – I don't think Clowney's got in complete football shape yet. I think he was slowly getting there. And
there you go with that.
He did kind of look a little slower yesterday. I thought I usually would be with Tanner on this, but he did look a little odd yesterday, as if he may not be in total football shape.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of games,
and maybe that has something to do with the lack of practice.
Yeah,
I mean that, and that's what I was getting at is, they come back to this game, so obviously some of the players were going to be looking a little slower because you haven't got to practice, you haven't played a game in a couple of weeks. Like, you're going to have to. It's basically like a little reset. You're going to have to get back into even the game shape that you were in. But as the season goes on, I think he's going to be like Derrick Henry. He's just going to get stronger as the season goes on. And he's been close so many times to getting, his first sack of the season. And eventually he's going to get there. He's put so much pressure on quarterbacks. So I think we're going to be okay at the edge rush, even if we don't bring anyone else in.
Yeah, especially when Simmons comes back in. And you've seen how just Clowney's presence has really elevated how Harold Landry is able to get some one-on-ones in the game.
So this is just quick, throw it out there. What are the odds that the Titans are able to retain Clowney after this season?
Numbers wise, I think they're pretty good. I mean, and I think that Clowney wants to be here. I know that's strange to say, but Clowney really there's a few things going for Clowney right now. He liked Vrabel when he was with the Texans. I think that helps. He's a guy from the South. His family can come to every game for the Tennessee Titans. And if he can play at a high level, I think he's at that time in his career where he's probably one good contract for the rest of his career, probably a 4-year deal, knowing defensive ends. And I think he can get that here. And it just really depends on obviously the remainder of the year, him staying healthy, and what are his intentions? What does he want to make? But I think he can make a solid salary like he's making right now for another 4 years going forward on a last contract before unfortunately the NFL loses a great defensive end / outside linebacker like Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, I agree. I think the chances right now are they're pretty good. I mean, especially if the Titans can continue the pace they're at right now, make another deep playoff run. Hopefully, we want them to win the Super Bowl. But even if they just make another deep playoff run, I think that is even more incentive for Clowney to come back, because he knows that this team has what it takes and he can get to where he wants to be. Like you mentioned, he's from the South. Nashville is a lot closer to where his family's from. I believe they live in South Carolina. Is that right?
South Carolina. Yeah.
So, I mean, they can come to every game a lot easier, and he's familiar with Vrabel. And I think that gives us just as good a chance as anyone else to bring him back and have him, like you said, one more good contract can probably close out his career. Jumping back to the offensive side of the ball, though.
Oh, okay.
Can we all agree that Ryan Tannehill may need to retire the layup celebration after almost getting hurt? I mean, am I the only one thinking that he needs?
I enjoy the celebration.
I'm okay with it too, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing. I'm one of those superstitious guys. So every time that Derrick Henry scores, you crown him. Every time that every time that Tannehill scores, he does the layup, and we just keep doing everything else in between.
All right, so maybe I should rephrase this. He needs to practice that a little bit more to make sure he gets his landing right and doesn't.
Yeah, but,
just be a little more sure-footed.
Yeah, the NFL won't let him practice. So he only had a walkthrough. He only had a walkthrough on the layup. So it wasn't even full speed.
And one of the touchdowns to Jonnu, it kind of, I know you know where I'm going with this, where it looked like it was so close on if he was past the line or not to be able to throw that ball. And Bills fans, after what happened with the Music City Miracle and everything, they couldn't have been happy with that call last night that he wasn't past the line. It was a touchdown. And really, either way, I think he could have ran that one in. But
yeah, I thought he wanted to just run it. And Tannehill is really not one of those guys that wants to run up the score on anybody. And I thought he was going to run it. And then when the defensive back came off of Smith, I mean, he's just kind of like, I mean, it's almost like just, okay. I mean, it's almost like us playing backyard football on Thanksgiving. I mean, if you're standing wide open, it's hard to pass that up. Let's put it that way. And he took it. I thought it was over the line, but I'll take it. I'm never going to turn down a touchdown. I'm never going to apologize for one that's in our favor.
Well, when we were watching that,
the Bills fans have a problem with the refs' judgment on where the lines on the field are.
The lines at Nissan Stadium are a little different than everywhere else, according to
yeah.
Well, we were texting back and forth about that throw last night, and we were under the impression, because especially where the imaginary blue line they put on the field, it looked like they had it at the 8-yard line.
That's true. I do remember that now.
And so we were like, oh, well, yeah, we were like, he was way past the line. And then they were like, the line of scrimmage is a 7. And as they started showing replays, we were like, okay, that's a lot closer than what it looked like before. So
but then we're having to make our own imaginary line because the blue line is back. Real quick, I'm going to segue you guys back to the defense so we don't forget it. But third down, guys, what needs to happen here?
That's a tough question. I don't know that I have an answer.
That's the stag sigh right there. Both of you sigh. Everybody to take note.
Third down, our pass rush they have to get home. They can't.
That's exactly what I was about to say. To get just I don't know why they feel like they can't bring pressure to the quarterback on 3rd and long. If it's 3rd and long, I mean, bring an extra guy and make the quarterback make a rushed decision. I'm not saying that you got to send everybody, but just get pressure.
Jackson being out?
What was that?
Do you think a lot of that has to do with Adoree Jackson being out, being one of your better cover corners if you got to go man to man?
I think so. I think right now with I think Jonathan Joseph is a good veteran presence in the locker room for these younger guys, but out on the field, I mean, if I was calling the defense for the Titans and he was my second corner and he's been getting beat like he has been, I probably wouldn't bring pressure because I wouldn't think that he could cover long enough to, either knock the ball down or anything like that.
That's Tyler's classic compliment into a diss. Kind of.
I mean,
he's a good veteran presence, but on the field, he kind of sucks.
Am I wrong though? I mean, Diggs was making him look just real bad last night.
Stephon Diggs, that's a tough assignment.
Wide receiver.
But
and he's 33 years old or something. I think he's as old.
Yeah, he's not what he once was. I agree with that. Right. Absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying. If Adoree was back and you could have Adoree and Malcolm Butler out there, or even if Fulton would have been able to play last night, I think there's a good chance we could have seen them bring more pressure on those 3rd and longs. But even when it's just our 4-man rush, 3 or 4-man rush, our guys are losing a little bit of the contain. They're wrapping on around and they gave Allen, easy outs to the side to escape the pressure. And
I mean, we're not going to have this problem against Phillip Rivers. We
right.
might
Oh no,
Watson this next on Sunday.
No, Phillip Rivers. Even if it was Jonathan Joseph out there and we didn't have Adoree back, I'm still bringing pressure because Rivers is going to throw a bad ball and it's going to be picked off.
Like Old man Rivers.
And how about Clowney almost, I mean, what should have been a pick six, and somehow he lets it fall through his hands. Like he had to have been thinking touchdown before he ever secured the ball.
I love that it was Matt Barkley who comes in and throws his first pass, and it was almost right there. It would have been after the kickoff that they fumbled after the Titans had scored to make it 35-16. I thought, oh my gosh, that could this get any worse? And of course, Clowney dropped the ball, and I just thought, wow, that not gonna get too many of those opportunities. But one thing that I loved about that is that was a screen pass, and Clowney. A lot of people talk about his wits about him. When he came off the line and nobody blocked him, he stopped dead in his tracks. He knew something was up.
Right. Well, and he had already had another tip ball earlier in the game.
Yeah.
So
getting his hands with frying pan hands.
And that's one thing I will give our defensive line this year is everyone is making sure that if they're not getting to the quarterback, they're getting their hands up to try and, tip these passes and, maybe cause a turnover off of it or at least make it incomplete. So I think they've been doing a really good job of that.
Also a great weekend for the Titans for an AFC South perspective. If you had to choose between Jacksonville or Houston winning, you take Houston winning to get their first win on the season. And the Colts lost to the Browns. So, you gain a game on essentially on everybody. I think the Colts are now 3-2. They had that little 3-game winning streak snapped. But I like where the Titans sit right now, especially after that performance.
I mean, the Titans
just have to squash Houston next week and make sure that they don't allow them to have any momentum going forward from winning that Jaguars game.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is the Titans aren't just at the top of the AFC South. They're at the top of the AFC right now.
Oh, that's right. The Chiefs lost, too, to the Vegas.
Yep, the Titans are sitting at what would be the number 1 seed right now in the AFC. I mean, I know
Aren't
it's still –
Steelers also undefeated still?
They are, but the Titans are sitting above them right now.
AFC wins.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Which we didn't get to play the Eagles this week. It happens. But not much. And it's nice to talk after a win, guys. I mean, it's been really nice to just talk with y'all off the air about just how well this team has been playing. It's always, like I said, it's always good to talk after wins, and hopefully they can continue it. I'm excited to see what they have in store this week. I know you guys are going to have a show later this week, but it's always difficult to get those interim head coaches, because it seems like there's another, as we saw this week with Houston, a little bit of shot of life into you to kind of a show me time, and that's a little difficult when you're trying to review this game coming up.
Yep, and I don't want to overlook Houston. And of course, like you mentioned, we'll have our podcast that we'll record, a little bit later this week, and we'll kind of dive into Houston a little bit more and what we need to watch out for. But definitely can't look past them, because this could easily be a trap game where we're coming off a big win, feeling good, and Houston just got their first win this past week, so they could end up surprising us if we're not careful. But 4-0 feels really good. 4-0 for the first time since 2008. And I'm just going to enjoy this win right now and hope that they can pull out another win against the Texans this Sunday and move it on up to 5-0.
Right. I agree with you guys. 4-0 feels good. It's always easy to talk after a win. I've enjoyed talking about it. Luke, I've enjoyed you being on here with us. I think I speak for all the viewers and the listeners when I say you definitely need to come on again sometime and make it a habit, because I think it's been a great show.
Hey, again, I appreciate it, guys. I mean, we talk, like I said, we talk all the time off the air. It's love the show. I mention it to everybody. Get your subscribe, like, review, give those 5 stars. And it's a great podcast. You can listen all around. One thing I don't like about a lot of these places around that you listen to, I stick more to podcasts, but I don't like radio shows as much, because you get a lot of these people. I'm not going to say anything about Jared and the GM, but I'm going to talk about Jared. Where you just bring stuff up just to make people mad about something and call in and be mad. It's not, I really appreciate that you all talk about how it's real. I know sometimes Tyler can, now I will say that Tyler, I think, said that we were going to be 4-1 in the preseason picks, right? So at this point.
Oh, hey, so, Tanner did too. He had us losing to Denver.
Right. So, I mean, 4-1, but no. I mean, 4-1, and, they had one game off. I think you might have picked, was it Pittsburgh to beat them, or?
I actually, in our preseason picks, had Buffalo beating them, but
okay.
I did mention to, I did mention to Tanner whenever we recorded our last podcast, and I changed it to the Titans winning, that the Buffalo game, when I was picking it in the preseason, was the absolute toughest game for me to pick, because the past couple of years they've had our number, and
they've only gotten better.
Yeah, they've gotten better, and on my notes that I had outlining what to watch out for and everything in the preseason, I had 2 different outcomes. It was the only game that I had that on. I had if the Titans win and if they lose, and I literally had to decide on the spot which one I was going with. But, hey, like Tanner mentioned, we made those picks way too early. We should have waited a little bit longer to see if there was actually going to be a preseason and, teams getting into their groove. So, but I'll take being wrong on picking a Titans loss in the preseason and them being 4-0.
Real quick, guys, because
Agreed.
I totally forgot about this, because it's one of my favorite parts of your shows when you do the recap. Nobody, even though I told you a couple weeks ago, I said Tanner nailed the pick, what is it called?
Our bold prediction.
Yeah, bold prediction.
The bold prediction.
Where was your bold prediction this week, Tanner? I forget. I know Tyler, because we talked about it, was Derrick Henry 180 and 2 touchdowns.
Tanner had said that. Tanner said that the combined points for this game, he thought it was going to be a shootout.
70. And I wanted to mention this earlier, but I forgot. I was so close, but the Bills just didn't hold up their end of the bargain. The Titans did well.
The Titans score was actually pretty close to what you said. You said that the game was going to be 45-42 with a Gostowski game-winning field goal. You thought it was going to come down to that again. And, yeah, like you mentioned, Luke, I had Derrick Henry going for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and I had Khalif Raymond adding in 120 receiving yards. So past 2 weeks, I've been right about Derrick Henry's touchdowns, though. So
I think Freeman had like 80 total yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not terrible. I mean, he made a big impact.
Yeah, I was just glad to see him finally get a punt return going. He got a little bit of room, and that's what we have him back there, because we know that he has the speed to make something happen, and we just haven't been seeing that so far this year.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the defense has been giving up a lot of people to midfield. When you're catching things at your goal line, you're just not really. When you're back there next to your goal line, you don't have really a lot of choice to let it go, call a fair catch.
Right.
Yeah, it is at hang time.
But right quick, I want to hit on our special teams again. How about Brett Kern? I mean, and even our gunners running down the sidelines and being aware on that punt that put the Bills inside. I believe it was inside the 5, wasn't it?
It was at the 1. Yeah, he turned around and caught it.
Yeah, I mean, and even with the Bills returner trying to push him away from the ball.
Oh, yeah.
He just reached up with one hand, tipped it to where he could catch it. And, I mean, just the play by our special teams in this game was amazing. They made some really good tackles, flipped the field for us several times. So, we got to make sure we give props to them.
And Gostkowski not having to kick a game-winning field goal actually feels pretty nice. Let him have a day off.
It does. It didn't have to kick 6 this time.
Oh, he did kick 6 extra points.
Well, we like that. Kick 6 extra points.
We do like that. Yeah, we're a fan of 6 extra points on this show.
And I have to ask now.
He did have some struggles even with those earlier in the season.
True.
So the Titans, obviously, like we mentioned, missing Corey Davis, Pruitt, Adam Humphries,
Jefferson.
And they still put up 42 points. I mean, we haven't seen this team 100% healthy yet this year. What can we do when they are fully healthy? I mean,
honestly, the way it's going, we might not ever see this team fully healthy.
Good point. But what are the last 3 games? Are 33, 30, and 42, I think. The first game of the season, you missed 4 field goals. I mean, that's hard to really quantify, but it's kind of an outlier at this point. But the team is moving down the field, and the team is putting up points. So, I mean, if you're putting 30 points up in the NFL, I don't really care who you are. That's very, very good. That's like what the Kansas City's doing. That's what a few years back the Rams were doing. That's a great position to be in. They just need to tighten some things up on the defense, keep things going on the offense. Arthur Smith is –
no pun intended.
Yeah, I know. I know. And so I skipped right by that. I was like, hopefully Tyler won't say anything. And I looked down at Tanner. I saw you leaning into the mic. I was like, oh, here it goes.
I thought about it. We got that brother connection. We kind of knew.
Yeah.
I was just going to let him have it.
Yeah. Good stuff, guys.
Yeah,
I would like to mention to the great people listening to the podcast, while it's on my mind, Luke was talking about the podcast earlier, and we actually have a way that you can represent us now. We have our shirts made, and I don't have one in here to show off, but we're doing a giveaway, and you can find that on all.
All right. Hey, I think Tanner cut out there. His Wi-Fi may be giving him some trouble. But he was saying that you can find that giveaway on our Twitter, which is Titans_time. You can find it on Instagram, Titans Time Podcast, and you can find it on our Facebook, Titans Time. Now, Luke, Tanner kind of brought us back into this. I was actually also thinking about it and going to say you have one of our shirts.
I do have one of your shirts.
And
if you want me to go grab it, I can show you.
Well, I was going to say, have you gotten a chance to wear it yet? And if you have,
just tell the people.
I've washed
how comfortable
it.
It is.
It's actually a very comfortable shirt, and it's one of those where, it's a really good look to it too. So, I wore it to my hockey game the other day, and I play hockey in Nashville, and wore it to my hockey game the other day. And we worried for a minute. We said, with me, I'm always worried about shirts shrinking because I'm a weird body type. At least that's what I'll say about myself. And, it actually held up really well. So I'm good quality. And obviously the logo on the front is really telling people where they should get their information on the Titans.
That's right. And the shirt. I've actually noticed when wearing mine, it makes it look like I've been going to the gym for the past 3 months.
Everybody loves a good black shirt. That's why all the bouncers wear them. You can never tell if a bouncer is a big guy or if he's a small guy, if he's a strong guy, if he's, if he's a weak guy, because he wears a black shirt. It says security on the back. Everybody looks big. If you want a nice shirt, makes it look like you're a security guard, you're going to be buff walking next to the pool, doesn't matter. You're not taking your shirt off. Get you a Titans Time shirt.
That's right. And Tanner, I had to jump in there, make sure, I didn't know if you could hear me, make sure they got where the giveaways were at. Your mic had cut out.
Yeah, I was going on like a really, really long talk. And I was right in the middle of it. It was going great. And all of a sudden, I think Tanner's mic cut out there for just a minute.
So I will let you now just reiterate where everyone can find us on social media.
Well, Instagram, Titans Time Podcast. Facebook is Titans Time, and Twitter also Titans_time.
And then we also have our website, which is titanstimepodcast.com. We have our podcast that you can find on several different podcast apps, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. That's just to name a few of them. Make sure you go check it out, subscribe to it, leave us that 5-star rating, leave us some comments, some questions. We'll make sure to get them answered on the next podcast. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you found our YouTube. Make sure you go down below, subscribe to it, turn on the post notifications, like the video, leave some comments, and share the video with your friends and just everyone else.
Once again, Luke, thank you for joining us. Going to have to join us again sometime. And as for me, I'm going to go get some rest, see if I can start feeling better. But had to make the video for the people. So
stay alive so we can keep you on the active list.
I'm going to try my best.
Thanks again, guys, for having me. Love the show.
Oh, yeah. It's been great having you on.
We need you to end the show with the this has been Titans Time, our normal routine here.
Oh, I get to do this, special guest?
Yeah, we're putting you on the spot here.
Okay, very good. Okay, with Tyler and Tanner Staggs, I'm Lucas Jerkins. This has been Titans Time.
And as always, tighten up.
And as always, tighten up.
I think it was fantastic.